Okay. Here we are. It's early on a Sunday morning. It's 7:40 a.m. Eastern Time, and this morning person is up and ready. In fact, 7:40 is kind of late for me. Uh, you know, I got up quarter to six today. That's too early. I always say that. Although I'm a morning person, I don't mind getting up 6:30, something like that. Quarter to six, a little too early even for me. So last night was the COVID-19 special, the One World Together at Home performances by the different artists, and I'm sure a lot of people want to comment on that, and we shall see how it goes. Um, got a beautiful sunny morning here, and I am anxious to talk to people today, and it all depends on how many people are here at this hour. Again, it's Eastern time here in the U.S. Portion where I am in the New York, New Jersey area. But what is your time? Hello, England. Hello, Australia. I'm sure it's afternoon there. So a lot of times when I do discussions early like this, um, we do get to have more people from England here. So, all right. So I'm going to have to talk for a while because being that the hour here is so early, there are not many people on. And I did a video. You can find it. It's recent. I just put it up this morning where I talked about the show last night. And first comment here is Vivian Lund. Thank you for joining the live broadcast, whatever you want to say. The EDT time zone. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you being here. I don't think you've come on my comments before. I always like it when new people are here. So did you watch the show last night, and what did you think of it? If you saw it. And we got more people I see watching now. Let's see how many. Sometimes people just watch and don't comment. Um, it's no secret. If you watch my video, you'll see what I thought. I laid it on the line. I basically found Paul McCartney's performance of Lady Madonna. It was a gospel kind of performance attempt, and I thought it was, the word I would use is unremarkable or unmemorable. It wasn't horrible and it wasn't anything good. It was just kind of there and it was forgettable, but it wasn't a disaster. Just you know, like, it was the Rolling Stones that were really fantastic. And when I say the Rolling Stones, I'm referring specifically to Mick Jagger. Um, you know, I think Charlie Watts, the drummer, was just playing air drums. I don't even think he was really playing. A lot of this stuff was pre-recorded, I think, But Mick Jagger, oh, he was fantastic. He seemed like a kid again. The guy's, even though he's had a heart surgery recently, I believe, right? He was really like in top form, like a youth. And I like very much when the vocals sound close to the original record. And I think that in the case of doing, you can't always get what you want. I think it sounded very close to the original, and Mick sounded like he was in his 20s or 30s or something. I really like Mick performance. So be sure to watch my video on this. I said in the video that if I was a kid, and I know kids, a lot of kids are not interested in old music, a lot of them, but if I was like, interested in rock and roll and was trying to get into the older stuff, and if I was like 13 years old, 14 years old, and I was watching this, and I wasn't really familiar with Paul McCartney, wasn't really familiar with the Beatles, wasn't really familiar with the Rolling Stones yet, and I was just feeling it out, I would say, well, I like that Stones song, and I like that performance. I'm going to try out some Rolling Stones, but Paul McCartney's Lady Madonna, although he meant well, didn't really do much to inspire, you know, uh, interest. If I was just starting out. Um, let's see, where were we at here? My boy Paul, huh? No, not much. Let's see. Good morning to Alan C. Records. Yeah, Liam, I think the Stones sounded great. Yeah, I didn't know Paul played Lady Madonna on his old Wurlitzer that he used during the 1972 Wings Over Europe. You can learn things. In my video that I made, I was searching for the right word to describe Paul's performance. I said it seemed like he did I couldn't think of the word. I said bluesy kind of version, slow and bluesy version of Lady Madonna. And somebody, Del Rivers, I think, came in and he said he tried to eke out a gospel version, and that's really what it was—a gospel approach. That was the word, you know. So there you have it. Okay, I'm looking forward to reading Alan C. Records' comment on my video later. Uh, Beetle John says, "Do we think Paul realizes what his voice has become?" Uh, I think he's starting to realize. For a long time he didn't, but I heard, I didn't see this, but there was an Alan Alda Paul interview or something with the actor Alan Alda, and supposedly in that interview, Paul said he was starting to get vocal exercises or something, vocal exercises. So that's the first time I'd ever heard it anywhere, uh, in any forum or anything, of Paul saying that he was kind of aware in a way of his voice limitations now. Hello, David Jackson again. Yeah, yeah. The Stones. If the Stones are this good all the time, man, I might have second thoughts about them. I saw the Stones back on the Steel Wheels tour in 1989, and I was disappointed. But I was not disappointed in the concert last night. Mixed performance, really good. Sounded great. Um, Vivian says she thought it was okay. What was he doing it in the same key as the original? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not, I'm not technically proficient when it comes to singing or musicians and instruments and things like that. I just go by what it sounds like to me. Um, so Wink 55 liked your take on the show. Paul didn't sound good at all. Even his speaking voice was bad. Sounds like he's having trouble catching his breath. Yeah, here's the thing, though. You want to say, well, the man's going to be 78 in this June, a couple of months from now. He's going to be 78. You say, well, he's 78. Well, you can't use that because it's true. I mean, it's true. Age, takes its toll on some people, but some people it doesn't. You know, like you're talking about, for example, Mick Jagger. How old is he? He's not as old as Paul. Mick, I don't think, is he? Isn't he a year or two younger than Paul? But Mick Jagger's in his 70s. Sounds fantastic last night. And, you know, Tom Jones wasn't in the show, but I just think Tom Jones sounds good. Tony Bennett still sounds good. He's older, way older than Paul. So it's an individual thing. I'm not faulting Paul. God bless him. He's still out there. I'm so glad that Paul's been performing for so many years now and decades now, really, and given so many people the opportunity to see him that didn't see the Beatles, and it's fantastic. But and Liam says the same thing. I'm just glad Paul is still here playing music. Well, that's all. That's what I just said before I saw your comment, Liam. But the thing is, that's not a get out of jail free card, from criticism. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm glad he's here, but some people are afraid to say, "Look, it wasn't good." You know. I mean, I'm glad Mick Jagger's here too, and he sounds good. you know. Elton John was hilarious. I thought, oh man. I do daddy do do da oh the pieces of my life, I mean, I love Elton John, but I don't know what I was so when Elton John started doing "I'm Still Standing" and he was like on the piano, it was like dun, 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 dun. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good upbeat, vibrant performer. We need some life in this show. And then he starts like somebody said he sounded like he had marbles in his mouth or his dentures weren't working properly or something, or teeth or something, or dental work. It just was. I was laughing at Elton John's performance, but. Let's see. Let me go back to some questions. Hello to P Key. Uh, Keith Urban and his video was great. I'll take your word for it. I wouldn't know. Um, Alan C. Records likes my 78 collection. Thank you very much, Alan. I'm glad you liked it. If people want to see that, I recently showed my 78 RPM shellac records. Um, David Jackson says back in the 80s and 90s, the Stones came across as tired and going through the motions, but recently they seem to be enjoying playing again. Very good. Yeah. Elton, and Wink 55 says Elton was better than you think. Normally he doesn't even go for the notes and just phones it in. Well, there were some notes, of course, that he couldn't reach. I noticed. I don't know what notes they were. I'm still standing. He didn't do yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, he didn't do that. He had to go low. I know. Look, I know he's older. I know he's had throat issues in the past. I think throat operation, right? Um, okay. Charlie Watts was awesome. I don't know about that. I mean, it's amazing that Charlie Watts has looked pretty damn old for a long time. But God, yeah, I'm glad he's still here. I'm glad these people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, you know, I'm glad that we have these people. But calls them as we sees them, right? Uh, Morning water. Elton was pretty good, Bradbury says, considering he had to be helped off the stage at his last concert. Well, that's true. I didn't, I mean, I didn't know that, but now that you're saying it, I think I remember hearing that he was having problems. Didn't know that. I mean, with Elton John, I thought the energy was there, and the excitement was there, vitality was there. It's just that his voice was bad. I thought, you know, the Stones made a deal with the devil, and he's taking sympathy on them. It could be. Oh, I didn't see the whole show out tour. I did not see the whole show. I don't have any interest in those other artists. I got to see Lady Gaga was the first one. I don't care about Lady Gaga, but I've heard that she's really good, and I liked her performance. She did that song "Smile, Although Your Heart Is Aching." Very good. I thought she was very good. She opened the show, but I was only there for Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney, Elton John, and the Stones. Stevie Wonder was good too. I like Stevie Wonder did "Lean on Me," the Bill Withers song. I thought it was really touching that he said, "This is a tribute to my friend Bill Withers, who's passed away recently," and his songs like "Ain't No Sunshine," or "Just the Two of Us" are great. And I love the song "Lean on Me." "Lean on Me" is obviously it's my favorite, maybe my favorite song by Bill Withers. And Stevie Wonder did a respectable version of it, but I still don't think he was at his best. But it was a respectable version. So yeah, David Jackson says Mick Jagger has always been a physical fitness fanatic and has been working on his voice for many years. Good for him. Bravo, Mick. Bravo. I have a lot of respect for Mick. I gotta say. But Paul's always tried to stay physically fit too. Voice wise, no, but physically fit, yeah. I agree with 55. I do not like the feel of these. All these at home shows have a weird feel to them. Some people don't know how to film themselves. Yeah, it's very like claustrophobic, very cold feeling these shows. I really don't like. I don't like these home shows. They feel very impersonal, very cold, very empty. I don't like. I really hope we get back to real life at some point because these shows are they're not gonna do it for me. Yeah, Wink 55 says no Springsteen, no Billy Joel, no the Who. Who else was missing? Well, a lot of people were missing. How about Bob Dylan? Um, will there be any new info on the new Peter Jackson film next month for the 50th anniversary of Let It Be? I don't know. We'll know when we know. We have to really like see that what's going to happen with that. You know? Nobody knows at this point. It's all up in the air, you know. So David Jackson says, I saw Graham Nash recently in concert. His voice has stood up, and he still sings with a high range. Good. My mother recently saw Gary Puckett, Gary Puckett, the Union Gap, and she said that unfortunately he sounded terrible. You know, um, how has Frankie Valli sounded? I've heard that Frankie Valli has been sounding decent still, and he's pretty old, 80s. I mean, some people can pull it off a little better, you know. So okay, Liam Gillespie says the newly remastered video from Maybe I'm Amazed was refreshing. I still haven't seen it. I love the video. I love that era, and I love the original the promo film originally. I haven't seen the high definition one, the new one, but I know I know the film. I mean, I've seen it many times. You know. Uh, has Bob Dylan's voice come back? I saw a video a few years ago, and his voice was completely shot. Well, his voice has been shot for a while. The last album I really liked by him was 2012, which is 8 years ago. I can't believe it. It was the album called Tempest, and I thought that was a pretty good album. I liked the song in there called Pay in Blood, a really good song, but his voice was like he swallowed razor blades. It was terrible. Um, I don't know. There's a couple of new songs out there. Murder Most Foul by Dylan. It's not a new song. It's newly released, but he recorded, I think, 7 years ago, something like around there. And there's another one. I forget the name of the other one. Something about multitudes. Can't remember it. Somebody will fill us in the comments. And I thought these newly released Dylan songs were. His voice was pretty good in these. I thought, but there's nothing remarkable about it. I think they both sound similar. They have a similar pace. They have a similar laid-back style. They have a very, I don't know what you'd call it, similar music pattern. But musically, neither one of these newly issued Dylan songs are anything for me to get excited about. Musically, they're nothing. And I'm a Dylan fan. I like Dylan. But vocally, he's pretty good in the new Dylan songs. And the lyrics, some of the lyrics are very interesting. But as far as the music, there's nothing musical there to really get you, toe tapping. Well, Dylan's never been really about that anyway. He's been more like a poet. But all right, let's see now. Back to the questions here. Oh, somebody said Week 55 says Frankie Valli has been lip syncing for years. So much for that. So much for that. Yeah, and Wink 55 says, have questions about the Peter Jackson film being delayed overtaken the question, have you been to Liverpool yet? Yeah, it's really, people ask me every time I do a chat, but it depends on who they are. I mean, I can understand people coming on and they really want to know, any news about the Peter Jackson film? Has it been delayed? That's the first question on Beatles fans' minds, and not everybody here has asked that question before. So, but yeah, that's a pretty repetitive question. So, Martin Norris says he slept through last night. Saw Paul's performance this morning. A bit embarrassing, to be honest. Um, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, but it wasn't horrible. To me, it was just I was very indifferent about it. It's like, okay, next. And nobody's mentioned that he did a shortened, truncated version of Lady Madonna. He left a line out. The Stones really, really. I keep thinking by comparison, the Stones was just enough time for their song. You can't always get what you want. I mean, that really was a full, more or less fleshed out version. Let's see, what do we have now? Yeah, David Jackson says he saw Brian Wilson gig at the gig 2 years ago, and the least said about it, the better. He seemed unconscious most of the gig. Was wheeled out to the stage in a wheelchair. Yeah, that's sad. Wow, Brian Wilson's been out of it for a while. Sad. Let's see. Hello, James Byers. Will there be footage of the Beatles performing Another Day in the Peter Jackson film? Let me see. Hold on a minute. Oh, oh. Will there be footage of? I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. There's been nothing, written about the contents yet, and you have to excuse me. I got allergies going on here. My eyes are watering, and once I'm outside in the world, soon, tomorrow probably, and I go out, you can't be rubbing your eyes, so that's tough. I know. Alan C. Records is here. Get the eye drops. Get the eye drops. I know. Eye drops. Eye drops. Yes, Week 55 says last night's Paul was still better than Maybe I'm Amazed on the 40th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. Agreed. That was his all-time career low point. That live performance of Saturday Night Live. Um, James Byers says he thought Paul's piano was terrible. Agreed. Uh, he had too much echo reverb that threw his timing off, but he looked pretty cool though. Man, like I said, it was a take it or leave it kind of thing. They could take it or leave it. It wasn't anything. I don't think it was embarrassing. It was just unremarkable, unmemorable to me. Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that performance by Mick Jagger last night, that really, really had me. His stock went up a few points for me, Mick Jagger. Hi, Robert S. Thank you for joining us. Robert's here. Um, let's see. Alan C. Records, laugh out loud. I wasn't going to say anything about the eye drops because he's been like referring eye drops to me. I always have a problem though with self treatment. Like in other words, some things you can treat yourself, no problem. But before I put certain drops in my eyes, I'd like to see an eye doctor, because I have allergies, and this time of year, the watery eyes and itchy watery eyes are tough. And I was worried about this because, as I say, with the COVID-19 virus, you're going out there, you're not supposed to touch your face, and I've been doing a good job the last month or two, whatever. But when you're out there, it's going to be hard when the water's dripping down. So, Nick Nack says, besides the Rolling Stones, the whole show was unmemorable. Yeah, I don't know. These shows, the last they just had one recently. Was it last month? Another one of these, and I thought it was same thing, pretty cold, impersonal, very claustrophobic. I hate these shows. I hate these times. Steve Durden says, I guess all the resting and vocal exercise didn't help Paul's voice all that much. Okay, what are we doing here? Yeah, you can see the videos on YouTube of these performances, by the way. You can do that. And Outdoor says, maybe I'm amazed that Paul's keyboard sounded awful. Yeah. James Byers says it's true about Frankie Valli miming, at least in the falsetto parts. There's footage of him in recent concerts missing his cues. That's sad. That's very good. Brad Berry said something pretty humorous. Mick Jagger, he says, was mad about the Howard Stern interview with Paul. So Mick showed them last night. We're talking about is recently, how many days ago? Like 5 or 6 days ago. 5 days ago, Paul McCartney was on with Howard Stern, and they were kind of saying how much better the Beatles were than the Stones, and Mick did show him last night. But Paul McCartney's only one quarter, of the Beatles. So, good morning, Record Rabbit. Jeff is here. I never know whether to call you. See, I like to call people by their screen names so that people that are following along at home can know who I'm referring to. I just say Jeff. You don't know I'm referring to Record Rabbit. So, Record Rabbit, good morning. You just watched my review of the Together at Home concert. Thank you. Liam wonders if the Peter Jackson film will be better quality than the Get Back music video on the One Plus Blu-ray. I don't know. We can wonder, Liam, we can wonder till the cows come home, but there's no point. I mean, some things you can talk about, speculate. I wonder if they're going to do this, maybe they're going to do that. You can speculate, but for the most part, until we have more information, there's not really much you can say. Um, David Jackson says, Joe, I know you will disagree, but since getting the vinyl version of Driving Rain, I actually think it's grown on me. It's not as bad as I used to think. Perhaps Ken Michaels is influencing me. Well, I can tell you that I don't hate it as much as I did up till this point. Eventually we're going to do a show on Talk More Talk. For those of you who don't know, if you're here on YouTube, please go over and subscribe to a channel called Talk More Talk, which is the name of a Paul McCartney song from Press to Play. And what we do is we talk about the solo Beatles, and eventually we're going to get to Driving Rain. I know that. Um, yeah, Steve Durden says, was Charlie Watts' drums dubbed in? He was playing packing cases in the sofa. But I heard drums and cymbals. Yeah, I think it was pre-recorded. That part, I don't know. That's another thing. Was Mick Jagger's vocal? Was it recorded live, or was he lip syncing? I'm pretty sure it was authentic. Yeah, Record Rabbit says he thinks mainly Paul seemed like he did not put a ton of thought into his performance. And as I said, these kind of bored at home performances are just not that inspiring. I certainly was uninspired. It didn't do anything to lift my spirits. If anything, it made me more depressed. I mean, this whole thing, these things are really, I mean, the heart is in the right place. And I want to say something I said in my video. There were people that I've seen on social media already, and they're saying, "Oh, stop criticizing these people. At least they did it. They didn't have to do this. They didn't have to do this. They devoted their time." What do you mean they devoted their time? I mean, yes, it's true, but what else are they going to do? They're all home on lockdown. It's not like they're busy. They got nothing else to do. But no, I do appreciate it. I do commend them. I applaud them. I say thank you so much for doing this. Definitely, they didn't have to. But that doesn't mean they get a free pass. It doesn't mean that you can't say, well, I think Stevie Wonder was pretty good, but I think that Elton John wasn't as good, and I think that the Stones were great, but Paul was kind of lame. I mean, there's no reason why you can't say that too. Yeah, I appreciate them all. At least they did it, but that doesn't mean you can't, give your honest reviews on this. Yeah, and Charlie Watts was like laughing and stuff. I think he was laughing because of the absurdity of him just like flailing away at nothing. I don't know. Uh, let's see. Reading comments here. As I always say at this point, I read everybody's comments on here on these chats, but some of them I respond to, some of them I don't. Some of them, they're just stating opinions, and I say, okay, I hear you, I hear you. That's good. You know, so where are we at here? Nick Nack says, I feel sad that we haven't really found any replacements for our favorite artists. These guys are getting older, and many of them sound terrible. It's sad to hear Paul and Elton sound like this. Agreed. But other people who are into more modern music, they'll tell you, oh, there are a lot of people out there that are good. You just have to look for them. People like Billie Eilish. Now, I did not hear Billie. Was that her name, Billie Eilish? I hope I got it right again. Yeah, there it is. Billie Eilish. Record Rabbit just mentioned Billie Eilish, um, and said that microphone was really low or something. You got to learn to speak up into the microphone or something like that. You know, I think it was her who had the low mic. Yeah, and then James Byer says, if we go back in time, think of how terrible Led Zeppelin and Bob Dylan were at Live Aid, good cause or not. Yeah, right. David Jackson says Mick Jagger is a perfectionist and never just turns up. Very good. A lot of respect, as I say, a lot of respect. It just goes to show you that even if these people are older, you can gain. My hat goes off to them. And they gain a lot of my respect. Rock and Roll Rebel says, what I like about your live chats is that you reply and acknowledge everyone. Most live chats I've seen, the host ignores everyone except their certain favorites. Well, I'll tell you, I try to do that, Rock and Roll Rebel. The only reason I'm able to do that, though, is because I don't have a slew of comments. I mean, I have just enough comments going by that I can keep up. I've seen some of these really big YouTubers, these popular people who have like, 100,000 subscribers or 50,000, whatever they have, and the question goes, zzzz, and then you can't possibly acknowledge everybody. I'll acknowledge everybody as long as I'm able to keep up with it. If the day ever comes that I can't keep up, I just have to pick and choose, um, who I can respond to, or whichever ones I see. Some of them you don't even see; they're so fast. Robert S. says Billie Eilish's performance was low in volume but high in quality. John Lennon would say, well, you have the records to reminisce. This is true. Last night I watched, I pulled out a great John Lennon interview from 1975 where he's on the old gray whistle test. And, it made me so sad because, man, John was taken from us 40 years ago this year. He was murdered. And, it's so sad there's not that many interviews with him to watch. I mean, anytime you want to watch a John Lennon interview, you have to pull out the Tom Snyder interview from 75 or the interview with, I think, Bob Harris is his name, from the old gray whistle test from 70. Two very good interviews, and there's a few others, of course. But from John, all you're getting is, 1969, 1969 through like 75. That's it. And maybe it's like you're not going to get any up. All his views are about the being deported from America. All his views are about, Vietnam, or they're about stuff that's all old hat. It's nothing you can do about it. And all this peace, like Steve Durden says, all this peace stuff. Uh, okay, okay, Joe. David says must go on a program is on BBC from Strawberry Fields, so he's gonna go. Okay, see ya. Yeah, and then of course in 1980, like Liam Gillespie says, I mean, John did do the BBC interview, which is very long. It's like a 3-hour interview. Then he did an RKO interview. They're good interviews from 1980. But what I'm saying is, John doesn't talk beyond 1980. That's it. The world stops for John in 1980, obviously, and we don't know how he feels about the 90s, the 2000s, uh, politics in recent years. We don't know how he feels about the coronavirus because he's dead. Obviously, but it's sad as a fan that you can't get John's input on anything except the '70s. It's a drag. You know, you have to hear him talking about what it's like working on the Rock and Roll Oldies album instead of what it's like to work on a new album for 2020. And Liam says John would have loved the '80s. Well, sadly, we'll never know. Yeah, Steve Durda says really surprised John and Yoko didn't appear on TV in November of 1980 when Double Fantasy was first released. Yeah, I'm sure there would have been time for that, but yeah, if he had been alive, they would have been able to get to that. Yeah. Nick Nack says, I think George had his feelings on the modern world back when the working title for Brainwashed was, quote, Your Planet is Doomed. Yeah, Brian says John was up to date with music in 1980 anyway. He liked Madness. He mentioned Blondie. He mentioned the Pretenders also. B-52s. Liam says there would have been a Beatles reunion concert in Central Park in 1984. Who knows? Wasn't John's last TV appearance, James Byers says, that little interview he does at the circus, perhaps from '78. Yeah, I think it's '78 that at the circus thing with Sean, uh, Yoko and Sean, and Mick Jagger also appears in that circus clip. I think it was '78. That's is that his last TV appearance? You got me thinking now. Maybe. Um, hello, Dino. Dino Robert. Um, I'm thinking about John's TV appearances. That might be the last time he appeared, like on a news clip or something. It could have been '79, but I'm pretty sure that clip, that circus clip, was '78. Dino says he thinks John made a clip in 1980. What is it? Which one is that? Well, there's the one with him. It's not a TV thing. I mean, there was footage of him. You know, the studio kind of interview. Well, I say interview. He was just talking at the mixing console with somebody, and somebody recorded it, but it wasn't an official, aired interview or anything. Yeah, that French interview, I watched that too. It's a very good interview. The problem is there's a French interview with John Lennon from 1975, French TV, but the problem is as he's talking, there's French narration over it, French interpreting over it. So you have to really struggle to hear what John's saying underneath the French interpreter. That's really sad. I wonder if that exists without the French narrator ruining it. Am I allowed to go to parks where I am? I think people can go to parks, if they're careful and they're distancing. I think. Um, let's see. Dino, I've never heard of this. I've never heard that John came to the studio for a local talk show. I never heard of that. So I'd like to see the video footage of that. To talk about video footage, I mean video count camera. Um, Beat Up Record Collector High says new Pretenders album coming out in July. Something worth checking out. Yeah, Nick Nack says that you can hear the Star Wars mixing sound effects in the background of the 1980 interview. That sucks too because he's talking and you hear these loud outer space spaceship and laser sounds being like mixed in and you can't really hear John's in some of the passages, but what you can catch are beautiful stuff like Paul referring to John referring to Paul as his brother, which is beautiful. It's one of the last things on record of him saying something. Okay. James Byers says he'll check out the new Pretenders album. Really want to hear the new Kinks album and the new ABBA tracks. Yeah, Steve Dirta, I wish that 1980 interview at the record plant was better quality. Yeah, so do I, but we're lucky to have it. And he does say some interesting things in that short, off the cuff clip. Thoughts on the band Blondie? I generally love Blondie. I mean, I don't have everything they did, but I really like Blondie overall. Overall, I'm a Blondie fan for sure. My favorite album by Blondie, Eat to the Beat. Eat to the Beat is one of my all-time favorite albums, bar none. I like every song on there except for Victor, which I think is terrible. But the other songs are great. Great new wave stuff. Have I heard of the channel called the Beatles Videos? Nope. Good morning, Beat Up Record Collector. Yelly Man is here. Yelly Man says, "Am I wild on Kim Wilde?" The only thing I really know by Kim Wilde is "Kids in America," which I really like that song. We're the Kids in America, and I'm trying to think if she has anything else that I know. But Grant Smith says he's on the West Coast. Woke up at 4 a.m. Decided to have a drink. Is that okay? I don't drink much socially every now and then, but certainly not at 4 a.m. Bob's Place. Hello, Bob's Place. Good morning. He says he agrees with me about the Stones and Elton John, and it hurts to say it, but he thinks Paul's is done. His voice is gone. Stay in the studio. Yeah, I don't feel too good about it. So, Steve Durder wonders if Jack Douglas, the producer of Double Fantasy, has a lot of unseen video footage from '80. I don't know. Thoughts on Kate Bush? I've heard some Kate Bush don't like her, from what I've heard. Grant Smith says his drinking at 4 a.m. is just part of his rock and roll lifestyle. Record Rabbit thought that uh, doing Smile was just okay. He didn't like how she kind of changed the melody and chord voicing. Seemed like it should have been a slam dunk, but it was just so. Robert S says Kate Bush isn't mainstream. There's stuff I like that's not mainstream too, but I proudly wave my flag that I love mainstream commercial music. Nothing to be ashamed about, and I'm proud of it. But I like a lot of Dylan. Most of Dylan is not mainstream. He doesn't. Dylan's not a pop artist. And I like a lot of Dylan. Um, Hi, Andy Dixon. Yelly Man doesn't think Paul sounded that bad, but Mick Jagger was great. Let's see. Yeah, Bob's Place. I caught that too. Bob's Place says he thought the duet "What a Wonderful World" was good. Not sure the artist's names. I didn't like it. I mean, it's hard to beat Louis Armstrong, but the approach, I didn't like it. But I'm glad you did. Nick Nack says a touchy subject, but if I remember correctly, weren't the tapes from December 8th, 1980 session for Walking on Thin Ice destroyed? I don't know. I've never heard that. What's the new Talk More Talk episode topic? Okay, that's a good time to plug it. Yeah, again, we're going to do it, my show with my co-hosts, Kid O'Toole, Ken Michaels, Tom Hunyadi. It's on every other Monday. It's on Facebook Live. You can catch it at 9 p.m. Eastern Time every other Monday. And then it's later on here on YouTube, it becomes a video, and you can see a video of it. Anyway, the next topic is going to be talking about Paul's interview, interview that he was going to be moving on with the McCartney album. The anniversary passed April 10th, where the headline said Paul is quitting the Beatles, the breakup of the Beatles, and we're going to talk about that really. Yelly Man says Paul McCartney's in the studio making a new album now, and I've not heard that. If that's true, that's the first news of that. Some of the most major names have only ever had one or two hits, James Byers says. How many times have Pink Floyd or Bob Dylan been high in the singles? Not that many. That's correct. Andy Dixon says, what we all need is the revised Let It Be movie released now, he says. All 52 hours of it. No way. I do not want to see all of that. I love the Beatles, and as a fan, I want to see all I can, but boy, some of that get back footage, let it be boring as hell, even for me, but I'd rather them take the cream of the crop, you know. Robert S. is pushing that video of the Robbie Robertson, Ringo, and others doing the song The Wait. The guitars and sitars, it's fantastic. If the new Peter Jackson film was 4 hours, like Lord of the Rings, would I sit through it? Yeah, I would sit through it, sure. But I would rather it be 2 hours. I think they're supposed to be showing the full rooftop concert. Now I don't know how they're going to do that because there's a lot of rough edges in there. But if they do show the full rooftop concert, it's going to be at least a half an hour, if not longer. But let's say I think they could do a thing where they make the movie 2 hours long. The first 90 minutes is footage, in the studio, and then the last half hour is the rooftop. Or maybe you can make it 2 hours and 10 minutes, but no more than 2 hours to 2:10. I wouldn't do it longer than that myself. Grant Smith asks, what can they do with an anniversary edition of the McCartney album that they didn't do with the archive edition? Just make more money, that's all. you know. But they're supposed to put it out at half speed master, which is better sound, so that's what I heard. Oh, the entire concert is 46 minutes? Okay. Well, then if the concert's 46 minutes, maybe they can make the whole movie 2 hours and 15 minutes, something like that, but no more. You know. Hello to Harry Fitzgerald. James Byers would like to see the segment where George walks out. I don't think you're going to see that because it's been pretty much known that this entire film that Peter Jackson's doing is an attempt to kind of squash the idea that the Beatles weren't getting along at the end. It is going to be completely a whitewash. So that's what they're looking to do. That's what Paul's is excited about. Paul said, Paul was interviewed on Howard Stern, and Paul says, "Oh, you're going to love it. Just you wait." He says, "You're going to see that there's a lot of love. We were getting along, and he likes that it's better than the other story that they told." So it's kind of revisionism, I think, but but I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see it. I'm to the point now where I'm pretty much resolved to the fact that it's going to be a love fest, and I'm okay with it. Would you rather hear unheard Beatle conversations and Get Back or bad jam sessions of the early songs? I don't know. I'd rather hear unheard Beatle conversations rather than the bad jam sessions. I think 3 hours is too long. I'm sorry. Harry Fitzgerald has some video ideas for me in the future. I don't have many of those items. Don't have many flexi discs, pocket discs, or 10-inch discs. Here, your record rabbit. Anthony H. says he thinks Paul is happier about changing the story because Paul was presented as the bad guy in that time. So obviously they make him look good in the new movie. Like I said, I have nothing against seeing the Beatles as a functioning unit, having a great time, laughing it up. Just don't make it sound like the Beatles never were going to break up, you know. Yeah, FD Superstar. Yeah, he says, didn't John Lennon say you can't make music at 9 o'clock in the morning with colored lights filming you, things like that? Yeah, but it is true what they said when they were at the Twickenham Film Studio at the beginning of the Get Back project. It was a lot worse when they were in the film studio. Later on, when they moved to the other studio, EMI, whatnot, and Billy Preston joined, there was an improvement in the mood and everything. So. Yeah, Liam says, I wouldn't complain about 3 hours of unseen Beatle footage. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you have to look at it from a cinematic film point. As a collector, I wouldn't mind having 100 hours of unseen Beatle footage. But if you're watching a movie, general audience, you want to see a movie, you want it to move and feel. Well, I think 3 hours for a movie about the Beatles in the studio as a piece of cinema is kind of dull. After it can be too much, I think. I think 2 hours is fine. And sometimes, movies go over a little bit, 2 hour, 2:15, like that's just my opinion. So it's a different thing, I think, between like just wanting raw footage for us fans to watch, outtakes and things, and between making a movie that goes down easy. So let's see, where are we at? We got a lot of things to go back to here. Saying, how do you do? Let's see, where was I at here? Grant Smith has a promotional frisbee for the Venus and Mars record. Does that have any value, collectible value? No, Grant. The Venus and Mars frisbee has no value at all. Would you please send it to me? Please send it to me. No, seriously, I don't know. It's a rare item. I'd like to have it. I'm reading the comments. James Byers says, we all know that no one person broke up the Beatles, but he can't help but feel that Klein got into John's head and Toronto Peace went some way to make up his mind to leave. Yes, the Toronto Peace concert did heavily influence John and make him realize he could do this on it without the other Beatles. This is true. And yeah, Klein did get into John's head. Yeah, sure. Yoko got into his head too. I mean, I love defending Yoko at times, but uh, he did get into Yoko, but there's other things. George was flourishing more as an artist, and he didn't have enough time and space on the albums. I'm trying to fix my shirt here. So, okay, go ahead. Grant Smith says he'll throw the Venus and Mars frisbee cross country, but I have to catch it. Let's go. The window's right here. Let's go. Throw that frisbee. Did you throw it? Ah. Anthony H. says Mark Lewison, who listened to all the tapes of that time, said there wasn't as many arguments as it was thought. And that Let It Be movie may have influenced their opinion on that. That could be. That could be. I've heard that too. But I always say the fact is the Beatles. George did walk out. George did walk out, and Ringo had walked out in '68 at the White Album sessions, and they did break up, so it probably wasn't as bad as Let It Be. The original Michael Lindsay Hogg Let It Be made it look, but they did wind up breaking up. But they still went back and did Abbey Road after that. So let's see where we at here. Yeah, we're supposed to get the original Michael Lindsay Hogg Let It Be restored as well. I really hope that comes to be. That's the talk. But they're going to release it at a later date after which I don't mind. I don't care when they release it, but as long as they release it. Okay, James Byers, enjoy lunch, and thank you very much for participating. Why would Klein want to break up the Beatles as he always wanted to manage them? Well, I don't think that Klein directly tried to break up the Beatles. I think it just added because Paul didn't want Alan Klein, so there was a problem right there. And as it turned out, he was a shady character, and John later admitted that Paul was right about Alan Klein. So Paul was right. Okay, somebody wants to know how am I doing health-wise? Do I wear a mask and watch for yourself in there? I'm doing well, thank you very much. I have allergies bothering me, which is a problem. Do I wear a mask? I have trouble wearing the mask, but I am starting to wear it when I'm out because it's required now. But the thing is, when I wear the mask, my glasses fog up. The breath fogs the glasses and I can't see. And people say, well, take the metal part and press the metal part. There's no metal part. I'm like, I have a box of masks and they're all general masks. They don't have a metal part. Some people say, well, take your glasses and put them down over the mask. I've tried that too, and that doesn't work. And I also can't breathe well in the masks. But other than that, you know, so far so good. And I wear gloves everywhere I go. But and you just try not to touch your face. But as I'm doing right here, I'm rubbing my eye because it's itching. Um, why are my glasses all streamed up? Do I think there will be footage of George Harrison walking out in the new film? I thought I kind of answered that earlier, but no, I don't think so at all. Because by all accounts, this is supposed to be a very uplifting, happy version of the Get Back sessions. It's not going to be a lot of friction and a lot of people storming out and stuff like that. So no, I don't think at all that it's the case. Um, yeah, let's see what else do we have here. You think the Beatles wouldn't break up if Paul agreed? That's a good question. If Paul had agreed with Alan Klein, I think it wasn't just Alan Klein. That's why the Beatles have always said themselves, and I think they're right, that the breakup of the Beatles was not just one thing. It wasn't just John being involved in Yoko. It wasn't just George needing more space on the albums for his music and feeling like overrun by Paul. Uh, it wasn't just Paul becoming too bossy. It wasn't just the fact that they had kids and wives and stuff. It wasn't just and it wasn't just Alan Klein, the business problem. It was everything. Plus, the Beatles, I think the main reason was they grew up, they matured, they were really becoming men, because they were just like young. I don't want to say boys because they were in their 20s, but the thing is, they were growing up together, and then you have to leave the nest, and that's it. So now, Liam Gillespie says they said there will be some drama. You're the first one to tell me that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, there's always plenty of stuff out there. Some of us hear before others, so that's fine. But I haven't heard up to this point that there's anything, drama. But let's find out. Maybe you're right. Okay, so yeah, that's funny. Harry Fitzgerald says he can't believe how we've gone back to plastic bags and straws. Doesn't that defeat the purpose of why they did it? I think it's great. They're back to plastic bags and plastic straws. Great. I love that, and I hated that stupid law anyway that they were doing. And I know it's to save the environment and all that. Yeah, yeah. Well, now we realize the COVID-19 virus is a lot more important than that. So anyway, I'm gonna go now, folks. I just wanted to be on for an hour or so. Maybe I'll be on later. I don't know. But thank everybody for being here. Thank you all. And this was a really good chat for an hour or so. And I will talk to you all soon. And it's a pleasure. I appreciate everybody watching my channel as always. Uh, Subscribe if you haven't already, and I don't usually do that. I don't usually beg subscribe, but you know, and also check out my movie channel. I have a movie channel. If you like movies and TV shows, I have a channel called Mayo's Movies. That's just all one word, Mayo's Movies. Go over there and check it out and subscribe. I want to try to get 1,000 subscribers over there because once you get 1,000 subscribers on the channel, you're able to do live chats like this through your phone. And I'd like to do movie chats over there, but I can't do them over there until I have enough subs. So anyway, that's it for now, folks. Thank you all for being here. Stay safe. Uh, let's see, what am I reading? Last comments. Anyway, stay safe. A lot of people I wish I could answer, but this has been great. So thank you, everybody.